Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Welcome to the close. This is Danielle. I just finished up on CNBC and I'm happy to be here with all of you today. Great class last night. Thank you. Excellent. Nice to be appreciated by the networks. Excellent. Excellent. You just closed 2/3 of Galaxy on the spike. Nice. Very nice. Galaxy Pop. Yeah, it was crazy. So I was supposed to. So basically, I write my CNBC notes the day before I go on the show or Fox or whatever network I'm going on. And last night, my son has had a baseball game. And so I didn't get to write my notes until like 10 o'clock at night. And I was sitting here looking at the short squeeze watch list that I have given you guys, which is right here. And I noticed, oh my goodness, look at this. NBIS is up 40%. And we had a CRWV up, was up like 10% last night. And then Galaxy was up like 4% last night. So, anyways, this just happened to be sitting here. This watch list is really, really great. I'll go ahead and share it with you again. So you can make sure that you have that. But anyways, that was when I wrote that in my notes last night, and they ended up wanting to cover that. So that was cool. But that's how that works. So anyways, when we're looking at the watch list, basically what you want to do with the short squeeze is, you always want to pay attention to what tickers have the right kind of setup, because something that people will get wrong with the short squeeze a lot is they'll look at tickers that are just getting absolutely hammered and they're just never going to resurrect from the depths of despair. We always want to look for tickers that have bullish trending patterns with relative strength, and also preferably that have incoming volume and momentum. Those are the ones that are going to do the best as far as a short squeeze is concerned. Now, I'm never going to say that I knew that NBIS was going to have a multi-billion-dollar deal with Microsoft, because I certainly did not. But I found that ticker on the stock charts relative strength list. It's like sort of like the IBD 50 list, except for it's their proprietary list that they have come up with. And that was where I originally got that ticker. So it's just right here on the stock charts dashboard. You just log in right there. And right here, this is the SCTR reports. And you'll notice that NBIS is the number one on the list. So essentially, I've just been coming in, looking for some of these relative strength tickers, and basically this rating, it's out of 100. And so when this has a 99.9% rating, it's like as good as you can get, right? So I've just basically been looking for tickers in this list, and then kind of combining that with technical analysis and then high short float. So that's how I'm finding some of these names. But anyways, if we go ahead and look at some of these tickers and just see what's going on. So let's go ahead and look at Galaxy. I didn't close out anything. It's one of those things where when I'm in the middle of a show, I can't really, I'm sitting here with my computer, obviously, but no, I didn't go and look at the trade or anything like that. So let's just go check it out. So I got in this morning for a debit of 275. I have 3 contracts. It's up to 320 right now. It's up 16%. It's up 7%. What I had noted in my alert, was that I was targeting the $30 price point. So, I'm not really looking personally. First of all, I'm not really a day trader. I do day trade the 0 DTE SPX, but that's pretty much it. So I just don't generally get in and flip out tickers. It's just not something that I really do. If you want to do that, go ahead. I'm just more of a swing trader. And so for me, I'm looking at the squeeze on Galaxy. I'm looking at the fact that there's incoming volume. The more that it's up today, the better. because what happens is the short sellers, feel pressure by that. And also, the more that these short squeeze tickers are up, the more that they're covered and the more people start buying them and the more it's just a self fulfilling prophecy here, because the more people talk about them, the more people buy them, and the more people buy them, the more it goes up. And then the short sellers are just getting squeezed. And then, when they're hard to borrow on top of that, it just creates some additional pressure on the stock. So with these kind of names, typically what I do is I wait until, definitely until the end of the session. I mean, right now we still have another 55 minutes or so to go. And so what I like to see with these names is I like to see high volume and momentum right at the end of the day exploding. And I want to see it go out on the high. That's how I typically know it's going to gap up the next day. Sometimes that doesn't happen, obviously, because it's not perfect. Sometimes what will happen is the short sellers will come in and they'll just slam it right back down. And then it's basically a failed breakout. So as of right now, we did get this wick right here. I would guess that's profit taking, but we'll just see how it plays out. A lot of the times with these, the best time to take them off is when they gap up the next day. Because if it can gap up like 10% overnight, then that causes a lot of short covering, and then, it can go even higher. But the reason why I like this one right here is because, it broke out up above resistance at the $25 price point. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to target 30. You can see that there's quite a bit of technical resistance here. So when you're looking at that technical resistance with the short squeeze, what you want is you want to see the price of that stock go through that resistance zone. So if we can get the price of the stock through there, that's when it should really take off onwards and upwards into 35. So then if you look at, where the previous resistance is, it's pretty much between 25 and 35, right? So if it can get to a new high, that's when it should really explode. So moral of the story is I'm still holding it. Feel free to flip it out if you want, but I'm going to see if I can squeeze a little bit more out of it. Rocket Lab is going to the moon. So I have tried talking about Rocket Lab a few different times, and Rocket Lab has been, it's been a pain for sure. But it is still one of the ones on my list. And I did give this one to CNBC today, but they just wanted to cover the other ones. It's pretty typical in the media that here's the difference between us in the trading room and the media is that in the media, they want to cover the tickers that are already moving, right? And so in the trading room, this is where we're looking at this and we're saying, hey, guess what? Rocket Lab, this has a squeeze. This has a technical chart pattern. We want to get in this one before it takes off, before everybody else notices. And so then later on, someday when it's up like 4 or 5, 10%, they're going to call me like, Danielle, can you talk about this one? So basically that's how it works. Right now, I think this looks great. This is one of the top ones on my list, and it has a daily squeeze, and it was a huge pain back in here. It broke the 50 simple, but it recovered really quickly. I still think this one is going to take off. The thing is that with these volatile short squeeze tickers, you just don't know, you don't know when they're going to take off. Like I said, I had no idea that Microsoft was going to make this deal with NBIS. But that's why we trade the technical patterns and we trade the squeeze. So looking at this one right here, like I mentioned on CNBC, I didn't get the alert posted just because I was, like I said, I was rushing to get ready. But with this one, I think that the butterfly at the $100 price point makes the most sense. So if you're looking at the way that the chart pattern has functioned today, first thing in the morning when I was looking at it, I was kind of like, oh man, this short squeeze is not really going to come through. And it pulled back, and it was pulling back on high volume, but then guess what? It reversed and it's starting to trade higher. So I feel like if you want to get a piece of it, the next trade is just trading it into 100. Whether or not it can get through 100, I don't know. Can't say for sure. But this is the trade that I went ahead and put on just recently. So 90, 100, 110 butterfly, and it's at pretty much the same price that I got this morning. So I can go ahead and post that for you guys if you want. This is a pretty aggressive take, but it's also one of those things where it's like, it's not expensive either. It was just slightly more than $500 risk. And it's a $10 wide butterfly. So, that's pretty good as far as a risk to reward standpoint is concerned. Even right now at $3, I mean, that's still pretty good. This one at this time is pretty far in the money is the only thing that I would say about it. So it might even be better to just do it like this at this point because now you're trading all the way at 96.43. But you could do, for example, we could do like 95. No, let's see. Yeah, 90. I don't want to overlap any of my strikes here. So if we do 95, 100, 105. That trade is only going to cost you what, 83 cents, 93 cents. Now, I don't normally do such a tight butterfly, but this is just kind of a unique situation because you've already had this huge move. This is kind of a lotto trade. And you have all that high open interest at the $100 strike. So for me, this is just kind of an aggressive trade that I could do. And, it's one of those things where I understand it's a little crazy because it's already up 50%, but this is a big momentum mover that's taking off today and it has 8% short float. So it's like, well, if you want to throw a lotto on to see if you could get a little bit, a piece out of it, that would be the way to do it. Can you please define short float? So it's just basically when there's a greater than average amount of shares that are held short. So people are betting against the stock. They think it's going to go down. So they sell it thinking that the price is going to go lower. And so what happens is when there's a high number of outstanding shares that are held on the short side, and then the stock starts going up, those people that have shorted the stock are losing money. And so they start bailing. And so when they have to buy back those shares in mass, it can cause an explosive move to the upside. And then when you combine that with, other people like us coming in and buying those shares as well, it just causes a greater than expected move. So in the case of NBIS, this one has 8% short float. CRWV, it has 20%, and then Galaxy has 9% short float. So some of these do have a little bit lower short float. I mean, like 8, 9%. It's not super high, but it is still elevated. It's not 1% or 2% or 3%. So, with around 10% of the shares outstanding being held short, like it does make a difference. So, what position does Leo play? So he plays first base and he also plays third base. Last night he played third base. Can you look into Tesla, please? What about Circle? Today's the Apple event and the stock is down. Yeah, man. Buy the rumors, sell the news like usual. So anyways, let's go ahead and look at some of these others. And I definitely want to see if there's anything to do here. CRWV, I brought up because this one was up today because these three names are all AI infrastructure plays. And so, they're companies that ideally are going to be making money in the long run because AI is expanding and companies spending billions of dollars on AI expansion are going to have to pay for the infrastructure. So Galaxy, CRWV, NBIS, those are companies that can benefit from that. If you look at this one in particular, it's right up against resistance, up against 105. I think if it can get up above 120, that's where it can really get going. So I'm eyeing this one. I don't know that I want to get in it right now. I mean, I guess you could do like a butterfly at 120, but I feel like personally, probably Galaxy is a little bit better right now. Let's go ahead and look at Circle. I asked Grok what Nevis should be valued post deal, and it said 150 to 207. And the thing is it's like, oh, I love how, so when I did that segment, I love how he prefaced it by saying, these aren't based on the fundamentals, because I wrote that in my notes, because sometimes what will happen when I do these segments is people will say, oh my gosh, this crazy lady's picking these companies when they're losing money and the fundamentals are terrible. And it's like, I don't care about the fundamentals right now. Like, what I care about is the fact that this is a, bullish, trending stock with high momentum and high short float. And I can trade it today, even if they're going to lose money for the next 2 years kind of thing. But when you add in that fundamental piece for like the longer term pick, I mean, yeah, this company, if Microsoft is going to pay them billions of dollars over multiple years, like, and it's $100 share. I mean, it was a deal here. It's probably still a deal here, which is why it's up 50% today and people are still buying it. So anyways, kind of just two different things. It's like, are you trading it on the short-term basis, or are you trying to buy and hold the shares? But I think I am going to buy more Galaxy shares just on a long-term basis. It's only $25, So anyways, circle this one. This one, we had a lot of fun with this when it was trading right here and short squeezing right there. I don't think at this point there's really anything to do with it. I mean, yeah, it is up almost 4%, but you just have to remember the short squeezes are going to work the best on a bullish trending price pattern. And that is not this. Yes, it is trying to reverse, but I just feel like there's so many of these others that are just much better positioned. So I would rather look at OKLO or look at Rocket Lab, or just look at any of these others. OKLO specifically, this one is really starting to go today. If you look at the way that this price pattern is playing out, you can see that it bounced off of the 50 simple. It tried to break out here. It had a false move, a false breakout, which can happen with the short squeeze. I actually got an entry right here when I was in New York, and I'm down on it. But now at this point, now that it's pulled back and it's hit the 50 simple and it's trying to break out again, I think that it's time to get back into this one. So this one, my next target is going to be 80 on it. That's where it failed before. Keep in mind that if it gets back up to 80 and it fails there again, that's going to be the spot where you might want to take profits or get out of it, or do whatever you can. But the idea with these short squeeze tickers is that you come up to that previous high and you break through that high and then you keep going, right? So that's the ultimate goal. But just keep in mind, at resistance, sometimes you just want to go ahead and get out of that before before it reverses on you. So with this one, I think it looks really good. I would buy the shares long term on it too. This is kind of like the nuclear play. I think longer term 90 and then 100. But if you look at, what you could do with it, let's see if I can just add anything to this. So I don't know that my calls are going to come through in time. As you can see that I have the 80 calls and they are 10 days out. I mean, there could be some miracle. It's supposed to move $7.94. So, I mean, those actually could end up coming back. But this is also a good example of why out of the money calls do not really work out sometimes, because if you get an out of the money call and the ticker pulls back, your out of the money call is basically going to get hammered. They work out really well when the ticker takes off and explodes, because the price of entry is so much cheaper. So let's see, if we go into October and just see what we could do here. I think this is why I got the out of the money calls to begin with, just because they were so much cheaper. So I feel like looking at these in the money calls would make sense. At the 70 strike, those are going for $9.50, call it $9.65. You could also get these right here at the 65 strike. So I like those. I also just like buying the stock. It looks like, let's see what Sam is doing. Rocket Lab. Looking at Henry's notes here. All right, thanks guys. Great notes, great alerts. And I want to make sure that I look at the end of day trade and see if there's anything going on there. Now, if I go back to my SETR reports, these tickers are moving pretty well. You've got NBIS, CRDO, which somebody in here found that one. Great job. ALAB, Hood, OKLO, Rocket Lab, MP. So these are all the top 10 stocks today that are on this list. So what I've been doing is, I've just been looking at like all of the top 10 stocks on this list because these are generally like the high momentum, high volume stocks. Actually what I could do with OKLO is maybe just sell up a credit spread. Let me see if I could get one of those. You want a good laugh? Ask Sam about Galaxy. Sam was the one that first brought that one to my attention. So thanks, Sam. 74. Got to give Sam credit for that for sure. Dun, dun, dun. Well, Sam was the one that told me about it. And what's weird? My cousin too has been texting me and saying, hey, have you seen this ticker? Kind of thing. So let's see if I can get just a few of these. Maybe I should do 75. Just do it slightly in the money. All right, so I'm just going to put credit spread and OKLO, see if I can get some premium decay because it has multiple squeezes across multiple time frames and it looks like it's going to take off. So I'm currently down on my long calls, but I'm just going to go ahead and add a put credit spread, and then we'll see if those long calls can kind of start to recover as the ticker trades higher, ideally. Galaxy continues to go higher. Now it's up 8%. To open, this is a bullish trade in OKLO. This ticker has squeezes. Oops. Across multiple time frames, and it's up almost 5% today after bouncing off of the 50 SMA on the daily chart. My target is $80 on the stock. I will also target an 80% gain on the put credit spread. Is it too dangerous to sell a put spread on OKLO? No, I don't think it's there's not really like a danger in selling the put credit spread because you're controlling your risk. The main thing is just if you sell the naked puts, only do that if you want to pick up shares, which that's a perfectly viable strategy if you want the shares. You could come in here and just simply sell like the 70 puts, for example, for $2. And if it stays up above 70, you get your $2. If it doesn't, and you want to take the shares at $70, you brought your cost basis down and you picked up the shares at $70. So all right, let's see if we can look at the end of day trade. Oh yeah, you want to look at Apple too? How's the audio? So let's go ahead and check out the market internals and just see. All right. So, I mean, it's pretty much as neutral as you can get. You have your ticks below, they're below negative 600, but they're below positive 600, but they are above negative 600. So, as far as the ticks are concerned, I mean, this is extremely neutral on the day. Yes, there have been, just a few little tickies down here at the negative 600 line. And I will note that there is an absence overall of ticks up here. So, something to be noted. I would not look at the ticks today and say, oh, that's bearish or anything like that. If anything, I would just say that the indexes have been pretty strong, despite the fact that there hasn't been much in the way of buying action. So we're sitting here at the highs on the day in both the S&P and the NASDAQ. If we look right here at the vol spread, what this is demonstrating is that we've had, pretty consistently, pretty consistent buying action. It's stair stepping higher. Looks pretty good, pretty decent. It's not flat. It's not bearish. Had some regular buying. Typically, when I'm doing an end of day trade, I would prefer to see stronger buying action. I would usually like to see, a stronger vol spread. I'll say it's pretty good. It's stair stepping. What I really like is when I get a nice big wide range expansion candle on the vol spread and you just see this big burst of incoming volume. That's my preferred scenario. Let's look at the VIX. So we're pretty much down here at the lows of the day. Why is that looking like that? Which is good. If you want to make a long trade, you're generally going to want to see the VIX going lower. So I would say that this is a kind of unique situation because I feel like I don't have a screaming buy for an end of day trade just because we're not seeing anything as far as strong ticks. But the indexes continue climbing higher. And I mean, I definitely don't see anything in the way of bearish price action. So let's see. If we look at the NASDAQ, we have a very beautiful 15-minute squeeze, 195-minute squeeze, and daily squeeze. I mean, I just think this is going to be like a big FOMO-induced buying rally, personally. I know that we have the QQQ long fly on. So that's a trade that we have in here. Let me see how that one's going. So this one's up 20% right now, and I'm targeting 590 by next week. The first strike is at 575, so we're $5 in the money. Just need to wait. Keep waiting. Not really too much to do there. Let me see if there's any big movement. Anytime you see, a lot of incoming volume in the likes of NVIDIA, Broadcom, Microsoft, I mean, look at that. That is a gorgeous candle. Big candle, high volume. Anytime you see that, that's typically a good moment for an end of day trade. It's been interesting because Microsoft has been moving in the opposite direction. Some of these others. Let's see, we have Meta. Really nice move in Meta. So this one looks like a great buy. Why is that data on? Let me see. Look at that 195-minute squeeze in Meta. This one looks like it's going to be onwards and upwards back to the previous highs. So we have 775 is the next target, and then, I mean, really 800. So I think Meta looks great for an entry. Oracle earnings today. I'll see if I can do anything with that one. I saw that people were asking about Adobe too. Let's check out Meta into next week. So let's see. We have a $30 expected move into options expiration. You're trading at 764. It is a little aggressive to try to target 800 by next week. But look at that. You have 10,000 contracts outstanding right there. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I think at the minimum, you could probably just sell some put credit spreads around 765. So I do like that one. Let's just keep looking and see. I want to see if I can get a end of day trade on. 56.10. Just not really seeing a lot of action here. I mean, if the SPX was right at 5,600, sorry, not 5,600, not 5,600, 6,500. Surely you know what I mean. Sorry, guys. If the SPX was directly at 6,500, that would be a good moment in time for a neutral iron condor. I don't love the condor right at the highs of the day at the non-key psychological value. Let me see. Interesting. Well, this is the high open interest value. That's quite interesting to me. You know, normally the 6,500 would have the most volume and open interest, but in this case, you can see that it's actually at 6,510. So, I mean, at this point, you know, you get a credit of like $4.20 if you sell those. It's really not bad. Not really seeing too much other movement here. You could try to sell it and buy it back in about 20 minutes or so. Great start to the Galaxy trade. You know, whenever you have a list of those high short interest tickers and then you start to see them moving, that's generally going to be the time to get in, because that's when people start noticing. That's when they take off. And then, like I said, the more that they're up, the more the short sellers. Just imagine you were short and you wake up and you're like, oh man, the stock is up 4%. And then 2 hours later, it's up 6%. And then it's up 7%. And you're sitting here like at the end of the day, staring at your screens, and you're just like, oh my gosh, what if this thing gaps up another 10% tomorrow? And so then what you'll see is you'll just see like a flurry of orders right before the close. And then what happens is that makes it pop higher. So those are the things that I watch for with these kinds of tickers. And then you have to remember too, I mean, it's not just retail traders. I mean, a lot of these short positions are hedge funds, and like they have rules. They're not like us where we're just sitting here, you know, trying to sit on our hands. I mean, I'm sure they do a little bit of that, but I mean, they have rules. They can't lose, so much money and all that kind of stuff. So they have actual levels where they have to get out if it hits those levels. And so it just, anyways, that's the idea. RBRK and Oracle strong into the final hour. Earnings this PM. Just trying to decide if I should do this one here. There's not a lot of time left. I think I'm just going to go ahead and try it. It's only $4, but we're just really not getting much of anything. So I'm going to go ahead and sell this, and I'm going to try to hold it for like 20 minutes. But this is definitely a day trade, FYI. And then I'll see if I can do anything on rubric or... All right. Okay, so you want me to look at, what are the tickers you want me to look at? Let's just look at Galaxy one more time. Oh, that's what it's doing. There you go. Just a picture. The short sellers, they're so sad. Let's look at RBRK. So this one has earnings after the close tonight. Here's the thing about earnings on these kinds of names. It's like we just don't know. We can never know for sure what it's going to do. You just have to decide if you want to bet on it today or wait until tomorrow, because especially with something that's a little bit more volatile like this, I mean, the other thing that I don't love about the earnings trade is just that they're not making money. But you know what's interesting is if you look at the EPS estimates, you can see that the last 3 quarters in a row, I mean, they have beaten their EPS estimates. So it's like they're not making money. That's negative. Like, just think of the pros and cons column, right? So a pro here, 4 out of 5 quarters, it's gapped higher. You got that. Boom. That's great. They have beat their EPS estimates. Boom. That's great. 3 out of 5 times. From a fundamental standpoint, I mean, is it great that it's losing money? No. But the ticker also has 8% short float. You have high volume coming into the name. You have a daily squeeze. It's definitely a more aggressive name, but it's also the exact kind of name that we like to trade here at Simpler Trading. So so I just kind of feel like, why not just give it a stab? It's gapped up 4 out of 5 times in a row. It's got a squeeze. It has a nice target at 115. It has a market maker expected move of $14. I mean, that would basically bring you right into 115. So yeah, I posted it in the chat down below. I told you guys I was going to be posting the day trades in the chat just because those really quick day trades, I just don't feel like are good for alerts that go out over text messages. Just because it's literally like a 15-minute trade. But yeah, I posted it in the chat. Okay, so RBRK. Let me see about this. So the main thing is it really needs to get through that $100 price point. That's the key area of resistance. Man, it only has monthly options. What a pain. I was going to sell a put credit spread on it. Well, that kind of ruins my plan a little bit. The problem is when you only have monthly options like that, even if I place a butterfly and it goes directly to the target, you're still not going to make that much money because it's just going to be um you're not going to have enough theta decay. So the only way you could really make money on this one if this one explodes is by buying the long calls. I don't normally ever recommend the long calls over earnings. This is one of those very few situations where I would say, I would consider it just because it has had some pretty big gaps and it has a squeeze and it has high short float. So I would say that this is one of those rare circumstances where I would look at this and say, if you really wanted to do it, the long calls are kind of the only way that you could do it. So, $4 if the target's 115, I would say probably these, the 110s. You're taking the money and running. Yeah, and I mean, I know that Henry had you guys in this one before it took off, which is the whole point, right? If you were already in it and you already made money on the move going into earnings, great idea to just take your profits because you don't know on the earnings coin flip if it's actually going to keep going. Some of the other ones, let me see. I don't know that I'm going to have anything good for you on Oracle, to be honest. This one is just, it doesn't have a great pattern. I mean, half the time it's up, half the time it's down. I would say more frequently it's up rather than down. So I would lean towards a bullish trade. But you can also see that there have been two big gaps lower over the course of the last 3 quarters. So when you're looking at that, it's kind of like, well, do you really want to be super aggressive on it? I'm definitely leaning towards the long side. Let me see what the expected move is. Looks like the expected move is $22 and you're currently trading at $242. So I would target between $250 and $260. You could do, for example, a bullish butterfly. $250, $260, $270. It only costs you $1 for a $10 wide butterfly. It's within the expected range. Last quarter, they had a pretty solid move. But like I said, the 2 quarters before that were not. So I like this one as a lotto trade. It's $1. So risking $1 to make the max of 10, but I would try to go for like $4 or $5. Danielle, are you still doing the same setups you used to post in the alerts? A possible setup for us to watch, not necessarily the alert of the play you took. Yes, I am still doing those. And I was thinking to myself yesterday, oh man, I haven't posted any chart alerts in a few days. It was more so just a function of when I went to New York the last week of the month in August. And whenever I'm there, it's just, back to back to back. I just really didn't have time to post any charts, to be honest. And last week was my very first week of my son starting middle school, and he's been homeschooled. And I just had a little bit of a rough week last week. My other kid, so I have 3 kids. My oldest one, he started middle school, so I was waking up at 5:30 in the morning and getting him on the bus and everything. So that was a whole situation. But um my almost 3-year-old, who's giant, by the way, he's like 40 pounds and he's 3 feet tall. I took him to Leo's baseball by myself because Daryl had to do the webinar last week, and he saw a train. There's this baseball field is like right near a train track, and he straight up just bolted, just ran off, like flying away from me. And I was also holding the 10-month-old baby. Well, I was holding the 10-month-old baby as a 3-year-old escaped. So anyways, I'm running through the park while this kid is just screaming like train, 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 trying to run into the parking lot. So anyways, I finally grabbed him, captured him. He was flailing, trying to get away from me. And I twisted my knee and I got so severely injured. I'm not even kidding you. Like, I could not walk. I was in so much pain the entire week. I could barely do anything. I laid down with an ice pack. It was really bad. So I was just thinking yesterday, oh my gosh, I haven't posted any chart setups and now I can finally walk again and I don't feel like I'm dying. So I need to post some more chart setups. So I'm sorry about that. What's the long-term target in Google with names like Hood and App entering the S&P and funds mandated to pick up the stock? How long would you expect this volume-driven momentum to continue? Okay, let's look at that. QMMM blasting off Chewy. I saw Chewy. I don't know that I'm going to do anything with Chewy. I think with the short float earnings tickers, I feel like I just want to wait and see if they take off and trade them afterwards. This SPX trade is just, there's no theta decay happening. I mean, what is this? It's $12.48. Come on. I'm making $35 and you're sitting right at $65.10. So I was going to try to close this by 12:52 Pacific time, but there's just no theta decay happening. The trade is dead on, but what you need to make money on this iron fly is you need for there to be theta decay. Yeah, great job with RBIK, Henry. Great work. What's the upside target for Google? You took the money and ran. Wonder how many bag holders there are today. You're 100% closed out. LOL 35 is the amount of knee brace. I don't think that would have helped. It was like, man, I was laid up. I can't even tell you. I was like, I cannot move. I cannot trade. I cannot do anything. Yeah. But no, I'm going to get back to posting some charts for you. Okay, it looks like the S&P is going to move, which is not going to be ideal for me if I have this neutral trade on. Come on, we're starting to get some ticks. Plus 472 on the ticks. Plus 536. Let's see if it keeps going. The older you get, the longer it takes to recover from injuries. I know. I was like, what should I do? Should I go to like the chiropractor? Amputation is the answer. Yeah, it was quite a scene. You guys should have seen. Let's see. Okay, so let's look at Hood. So speaking of Hood, it's like I remember we were looking at this last week, and I remember I was planning on buying it. And it was like one of the top tickers on my list. And of course, I, didn't get in before it just took off and exploded. Um, so as far as like how far can it go? I mean, the next target's 125 and then 130. Whenever tickers get added to the S&P like this, I mean, this may be one of the tickers that we just end up trading regularly for a while. This is also another ticker that's been on the stock chart scooter rankings. But right now for the short-term basis, 125 and then 130 are the next targets, but it's still, the squeeze still hasn't fired. So I think the momentum can keep going. Any news on any stock, I mean, it's pretty typical that it wears off after a few days. Today, it's already only up 0.78%, where, compared to what it was up yesterday. So we're starting to see some of that move wear off a little bit. App, I think this one has short float. Let me see. This one has 5% short float, which, I mean, it's a little bit elevated. Starting to get some buying. Probably going to have to close out on my neutral iron fly. But the ticks are still just not moving, even though the indexes are going higher. But anyways, with app, this is just kind of a unique name because it has a little bit of short float. It is right near that previous high. You still have some pretty good volume and momentum today. But it's just way past targets is the thing. So I feel like Robinhood has a better chance of continuing to go. But as far as app is concerned, the next target would be 575 and then 600. Looks like the buyers are coming in. I'm probably going to have to take this off for about a scratch. I always hate doing that because it's like so close to being profitable. And if I just would wait a few more minutes, it might work. But the thing is if you wait a few more minutes, it also might go to the max loss. So, the typical rule with the neutral iron flies is to be out of them before you get to the last 8 minutes of the day. And that's because the last 8 minutes of the day is usually when the buy orders come through. So let's just see if I can, okay, $4, 420. Just interesting because we're just still not really seeing anything in the way of ticks. Plus 400. Okay, there we go. Plus 600. Got out at 360 for $60. Nice. I think I missed my exit by about 20 seconds. Literally went from like $4.40 to $7 in 30-second time frame. All right, now we're back down at the negative ticks. Come on, bring me back down, baby. Negative 600 on the ticks. Let's bring it down like 2 more points. Just kind of a one tick wonder down into that negative 600. Okay, I'm going to try to close it for 550. 3 more minutes. It's possible. It's possible. It's possible. Possible. One little tick will bring it down. Look at all of those outstanding calls right there. Two minutes remaining. Still just nothing in the way of ticks. $83. Thanks, Danielle. I was in the market internals yesterday. Took the end of day SPX quick play for 2K, less than 3 minutes. Appreciated. I'm trying to buy 44 more screens like Vincent. Nice. Well, you did a better job than me. Missed my exit by like 20 seconds. Come on. Just tick me lower. All right. I'm out at 555. So I lost like $150. It's possible that this hammers right back down into 5610. Actually, it looks like what it's doing. So, sometimes with these end of day trades, it's just always really hard to say if you should wait until the very final moment or not. Typically what has worked better for me is getting in and out, just because the very final moments, when you get down to like the last 6 or 7 minutes of the session, they don't necessarily move exactly with the internals, because you can just have some, big orders hitting, some buy orders, some sell orders. And so what's worked a little bit better for me is just to try to get out, because you can just see some kind of crazy moves, especially if you're making money, because you don't want to have you don't want to have the money that you're making just disappear in the last 90 seconds. But I mean, it's worked the other way too, where it's like it comes right back down to that exact level. So it looks like if I would have held it, it looks like literally the last 15 seconds, if I would have held it, I would have ended up making like $1.50 instead of losing $1.50. So it looks like today, being more patient would have worked out better in my favor, but that's okay. I think for the most part, closing them out has worked better for me. Nice trades lately, Danielle Shay. Just registered for the Orlando show. Looking forward to seeing you there. Yes, I'm looking forward to being there as well. The heroes are the hedging impact of real-time options from Spot Gamma. The hero flow is the implied stock buying or selling that dealers must do because of customer options trades. Thank you very much for the definitions. Go Galaxy. Yeah, let's go back and look at that one. So, I mean, that's pretty much exactly what you want to see. You just want to see it go out on the highs of the day on high volume. You couldn't ask for anything better than that. What you would want to see tomorrow is you would want to see this gap up overnight. Sometimes these tickers will give you a nice teeth kicking. If they end up gapping down overnight and then the short sellers come back in. When that happens, you just look at it and see if it's holding support or not. When is the Orlando Money Show? That is going to be October 16th, 17th, 18th. Danielle, we'll miss you in Austin. I know. I'm very sad about this. We'll see if I end up showing up at the last minute like, hello, you guys can't get rid of me that easy. Did you go over SNPS? I did not, but this looks really good. Multi-time frame squeezes. Right above the 50 simple on the daily chart. Earnings after the close, which is right now. So, it looks like overall they've done really well after earnings. Just this one quarter was a little bit lackluster. But I think overall they've done really well. Did you tell us that the ST Turbo VZO is available for us? Don't remember where it is. Yes, that is on my swing trading grid. You held the SPX, so worked out for me. Thanks, Danielle. Great. That's awesome. You think a hot PPI will slam the market like last time? It's been interesting because the data hasn't, nothing's really been slamming the market too badly. And even when the market does get slammed, the buyers have been coming in immediately. So I haven't been that concerned about the data. Well, now she'll have to be there. Yeah, it's just a little difficult to leave 3 kids. I've always traveled for work, and for the longest time, Leo was an only child, and it was not necessarily easy to leave him, but it was significantly easier to leave 1 child than 3 children. So I'm going to Orlando because the kids are coming with me. So this is like a dual work/family vacation. But unfortunately, I could not locate any babysitters in Austin, was the issue. Is the stock charts page you showed your account page? This is just the dashboard right when you log in. So you just have to customize your dashboard. So let's see, just go log in. You just log in and then there's this button right here that you can add extra panels. And you just add additional data panels. So for example, there's this drop down and there's all these different data panels that you can add. You can add like a sector summary. This one's the SCTR reports. It's called the scooter reports. And then you can see the full report. Does Phoenix or Scottsdale ever have money shows? No. So I'm going to the Orlando one, and then I'm also going to be going to the one in Vegas in February. My mom used duct tape and twine. It was quite effective. We rarely got loose. RBRK up. One day they will have a cryo sitter, freeze them so you can go away. John's the kangaroos can babysit. Oh, and then, yeah, let me get you the link for my chart setup. RBRK, there we go. Boom, 110. Ion Q looks like it's starting to go again too, by the way. So here's the swing grid that's available to members. Oracle misses, but the stock is up. Nice. Dang, like even, I mean, that's a 1.5 times the expected move so far. Thank you so much, Danielle. You're welcome. Thanks, Danielle. Take care of your knee. I was hoping to meet you in Austin. Thanks for the Galaxy trade. Thanks. I tried to convince grandma to just watch all 3 of the kids for one day, and I would come to half of it. Come on, help me out. Poor grandma. By the end, she's just like totally wrecked. My kids are like crawling everywhere, like little crazy children. All right. Well, it looks like the market's moving too. S&P's moving. RBRK is back down. All right. Well, I think I covered just about everything. Looks like Galaxy keeps going higher after hours. Can't complain about that. Keep an eye on some of these others that are on the watch list that are moving too. You know, you have SMR moving. Reddit was back up today after being a huge pain yesterday. APLD was on the move. We got OKLO, Sizzle, SMCI. The quantum names were all moving today. So ideally, I'd like to see some follow through in those tomorrow. All right. I have 2 grandkids from my son. I call one crazy and the other cranky. Yeah, I have a three-nager right now. But where do I go though is the thing, Martin. I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Ortho, thanks for the tips. That's what I thought. I thought, man, this is going to get way worse. But thankfully, by yesterday, I could walk again. So, all right. Well, I hope that everybody has a great rest of your day. Yeah, these are the squeeze daily columns and then the squeeze 4-hour columns. When there's a bunch of data on here and the market's moving, it takes a minute to load, especially if there's a ton of squeezes. But we have a blog article that explains how to load the squeeze in there. I'll go ahead and share this watch list again. And then maybe I can find that article for you. Here, I found the article for the squeeze watch list columns. How to access them. So it's just something you have to put into your own Thinkorswim. I went ahead and shared the squeeze watch list, but the squeeze watch list columns do not come over. So what you have to do is you just have to load them yourself. Sorry, guys. I wasn't looking at the YouTube chat today. I'll do better next time. Is it too late for PESI? Let me check that one. I'm not sure what you mean by too late. I mean, it's definitely a pretty big reversal. Whenever you get a big candle like that, you know, there are buyers coming in. If it holds up above the 200 simple at the $10 price point, and then we start to see a bounce there, then I could see buying it there. Soon still looks good, except for the fact that it was down today. You know, typically with the short squeeze, what you need is you need for it to keep going up, and you need for that volume to continue coming in for it to keep squeezing. And then the problem is that once it reverses, that's where it can really lose momentum. So you generally have to wait for it to set up again before you can get in. So I would say look for a pullback into like 13, 14. The candles are called the Trend Strength Turbo candles. You were thinking of a short but missed it. So if you were thinking of a short but missed it, typically what I like to do is I like to short around the 200 simple. So same area where, you know, if you could buy it at the 200 simple where it's reversing, that would be a good spot. But typically if something breaks and goes below the 200 simple, especially on the second day, that's where you can, you know, go with the downside move. MSOS. Ooh, that one looks good. Nice squeeze. Nice little cup and handle pattern there. Target up at previous highs at 569 and then up at 6 and then 644. Nice incoming volume and momentum. I'll be better with the YouTube chat next week. But thank you, everybody. Yeah. And I'll see you tomorrow.